Arnie was my first cousin to his father and my mother are brothers and sisters, and so I've known him all of my life. He was a unique individual. He wasn't what we call a bad child. He was a little wild, headstrong.
He kind of pushed the envelope on, you know, what you could get away with.
Admittedly said he jacked around and wasn't a good student and gave Mom the credit. He always said, you know, I didn't get my act together until I started dating Mom.
You know, I was a very quiet, you know, little country girl. You know, I was in nurses training at the time, and he was a gadabout. You know, he was a fun lover.
And I think really at a very early part of their relationship, I think he saw something that really attracted him to her, and realized that she was probably going to be his soulmate for the rest of his life. Arnold was an individual who really developed the sense to know himself well, to know where his talents were, what they were, and what he could do to share those talents, you know, with others.
He was such a wealth of information, incredible wealth of information. He always put things in perspective.
But I think he was very much a giver. I think he just wanted to make things better, and I think he wanted to give people a shot. I think he knew that people gave him a shot, and that's how he kind of came from where he was to where he was at the end.
And he always walked the walk. He was a great example of when he said he was going to do something, he did it. He was always on time. He always met deadlines, never disappointed.
I was impressed with how widely diverse he was and how forward-thinking he was. Right, he was always kind of looking for that next thing.
He always pushed us to excel. He always pushed us to work hard, you know, and to really be the best.
He was very ambitious and driven, but I also think he had faith.
He probably was the most generous person I've ever met the 33 years or 34 years that I was a priest. As far as tithing, he never ever batted an eye about 10%, and whenever there was something needed, you turn around and I'll take care of that.
You know, knowing Arnie, you couldn't help but be emboldened to look at a situation, to look at an obstacle and say, we can get past this.
He got a work ethic from his parents. Both his parents worked extremely hard, and he got the work ethic from them. He just always knew he wanted to have his own business. I said, you're never a committee member, you're a committee leader or head, because he just, you know, he always wanted to, you know, he always had a way of doing it that he wanted to be in charge. And
he bought the John W. Law Company. That's the beginning of the Honkamp Kruger organization.
I'm very grateful that we've had the opportunity to attract good quality people, to keep them, and in doing so, serve our clients in a way that is proactive and aggressive and beneficial. And you factor all those things in, and gee, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful ride.
I met Arnie when I was 23 years old, 1982. I answered an ad that my wife's mother sent me when I was in Bowling, Kentucky.
I think the first time I met Arnie was about 1974. He had just purchased John W. Law Company.
He just made a cold call on John Law Company one day. He just, out of the blue, and said, you know, what are you doing about succession? And John said, it's funny you should ask that.
Back then we did accounting, payroll, and taxes. That was probably the main thrust of the business back then. It was so much different than it is now. There was only 20, 25 employees at the time.
John W. Law, back in those days, was not a CPA firm, and I was with a CPA firm. The atmosphere was much more marketing, cultured. I mean, he really spent a lot of time on trying to get new clients. Client service was always number one. And I just think they had a heck of a lot more fun than the firm I was with before.
John and Peg Law created a real foundation for us, and we've been able to take that and grow it and be successful, and I think all of us in the firm, myself included, can be proud of where we've been and where we are, and look with great enthusiasm to the future.
First time I met Arnie was when he interviewed me for a job here.
I met Arnie in my interview to work at Honkamp Kruger.
Arnie was interviewing me for a position for an accounting assistant.
Arnie had an impeccable way of asking questions.
The main thing I remember was he decided to clip his fingernails at that time when he's doing the interview. It's like, I don't know if this is a good sign or not.
I remember him asking me, "Did you attend Wahlert?" And I said no. And I kind of sensed something in that question. And as he asked me more questions, asked me who I was dating, where he went to school, did we live together, anything that you could possibly ask in just a conversation with people you've known for a long time.
He was asking a lot of questions that would, in today's world, probably get him in trouble with an HR department.
But he asked me a lot of questions. He was very interested in my personal life. You know, I was a single mother, and just wanted to really know what was going on and what I was doing and what actually brought me to their doorstep.
We moved to town in 1988, and certainly didn't take long to hear about Arnie and Honkamp Kruger.
You just don't meet somebody like Arnie. They're just not really out there. I mean, he had drive and that ability to think like a visionary and like an entrepreneur, which is pretty unique.
He lives by his own rules. He walks right along that line, fine line. Usually tries to step over it just a bit, and can charm his way.
We were heading to Milwaukee to a conference, and Arnie was not exactly the greatest driver in the world. He kind of had his own set of rules, and we missed a turn or an exit to go to the hotel where the conference was. And I said, "Arnie, you just missed the exit." And he took a quick right turn and flew over top of the embankment about 50 feet down, right back onto the exit. And I was just looking straight ahead, and I couldn't even look at him. And then he said, "That one's between you and me."
I also love the fact that he wasn't afraid to make a turn here or there, or maybe get through a light here or there where you maybe shouldn't have.
He would always be seen turning left onto Asbury from JFK, and a lot of times I was going straight on JFK, and he would be coming up next to me in the other lane, and he would make left turns on red, yellow, green.
To say that he was aggressive with his driving skills is an understatement. He kind of a bull in a china shop, actually, behind the wheel.
He had the radar detectors, I mean, from the earliest time I can remember. I mean, the gigantic ones that would sit on the dash. And I can remember we drove to South Bend. I was in grade school, and he got pulled over for speeding. And he had this gigantic box radar thing on his dash, and he put this hat over it, and it was obvious there was something there. And the cop pulls him over, and he's like, "What's that?" Dad's like, "What's what?" And he's like, "That." And he's like, "It's a hat." He's like, "What's under the hat?" "Radio." He's like, "Well, let me see the radio." He's like, "I don't want to show you the radio." He's like, "I want to see that." I mean, he's bickering with this cop, and I'm in the back going, "Oh my God, we're gonna go to jail." And so he finally gets him to lift up the cap, and it's like, "That's not a cap." And Dad plays dumb completely. Huh? News to me. I mean, like, well, plays it off like he's seriously surprised that that's not a radio underneath the hat.
Freaking financial fun. Say, can you see? Maniacal. Maniacal. All right, start over. It's time for some maniacal. Furbach, just for your information, nobody does the voodoo like I do. Mechanical laughter. It's time for some maniacal. It's time for some I can't say it.
Whenever we had photo shoots or video shoots, Arnie really embraced them. We would sometimes put him in some pretty embarrassing situations that required a lot of self-deprecating humor, and he was always on board.
I mean, when he was doing the Dr. Evil thing, you know, I have those embedded in my brain. I mean, some of them, like, you know, that laugh that he did for the Dr. Evil thing, it was just, I mean, he was a maniacal madman practically. I mean, that was very well done.
It's been shocking to us. He's so comfortable in front of the camera, and he's so good, and he's funny and charming, and he loves it. He loves being in front of the camera, which is so different than, you know, some of the other things that he's been involved with.
Burbach, dial 9 for long distance. Oh! It's time for some maniacal. It's time for some maniacal. Oh, Billy.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, Billy.
Arnie had certain mannerisms or sayings. You know, the one that everybody probably remembers is, oh, Billy. Whenever something surprised him or he didn't agree with something, it's, oh, Billy.
Oh, Billy. Oh, Billy.
Oh, Billy.
Another one that he was pretty well known for was he would ask you a question and you give him an answer, and he understood the answer completely, but it wasn't the answer he was looking for. You go, huh? It's like that, huh? It's like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. Here comes the huh.
It's time for some It's time for some maniacal. It's time for some oh God, you gotta get a different word. I'm all about the fun.
He's got great kids, and he instilled in them. This is a great story. A couple years ago, when I had a weekend off, and I went to Madison to visit my cousin and his wife, and several of us were in the car, and I told them we have to go to Mass. I haven't celebrated Mass yet, and so I said, let's just go in this pew in this church. And so we went in. There were 4 of us, and I'll be darned, at the side door, here comes Arnie's son and his wife and baby, and they come into church. They don't even see me. They go in the pew in front of us, and I tap him on the shoulder, and he said, oh my God, he said, my dad sent you here to check on me, didn't he? So we've laughed about that often, and even at the funeral at the time, Nick, the son, remembered very clearly that Sunday in Madison when he said, my dad hires people to make sure I go to church.
I think Arnie loved Dubuque so much that it didn't matter what anyone thought about it or felt about it. He was going to put Dubuque first. He was going to get involved. He always said, I don't get involved in anything unless I can lead the charge.
The slogan was, last one out of the Dubuque, turn out the lights. Well, he wasn't going to stand for that. So he's very instrumental in the dog track. And you can look around the whole community and see Arnie's fingerprints, you know, on a lot of different things.
One of the things would be to think in terms of what is Dubuque and subtract Arnie out of it. You know, he fed people and he put clothes on people and he gave them cars and houses, education.
He also was one of the most generous people that I've ever met as far as his time and his finances and other resources. He was always willing to help.
I mean, he gave to the community, to the church, to the people around him, to so many people that many of us will never know. And you know, you want to talk about a legacy that matters, that's about as good as it gets.
You know, he always led by the example of making sure you give back. That was a very important thing to Arnie. United Way was huge to him, making sure that he helped teach all of us to give back to the community that we live in.
I mean, he gave back
not only to, I think, the people here at work, but also to the community altogether. And he not only, I think, preached that, but he also, I mean, lived it as far as what he did all day after day.
I don't think a lot of people know how empathetic and charitable he was within the community and how many people he actually helped over the years.
He just had such a big heart, and he was not just trying to hand out money. He was actually trying to help make a difference in their lives and help them figure out how to, do more with their lives and to give them resources and to give them coaching.
I think he got satisfaction in seeing others succeed and get the credit, and I think that was his source of quiet pride.
I really think one of the things he was most proud of, I think both personally and professionally, was when he helped form the Dubuque Racing Association, and they got their first license to be able to open and build Dubuque Greyhound Park. That was just huge.
I think one of his legacies, or one of his bigger legacies, is what he did with early childhood education, because he pushed for fair wages for the workers. He pushed to try to get it accessible to anybody, no matter what your income level was.
I think he was, although he never said it, I think he was proud of building Honkamp Kruger.
Seeing the growth of this firm, he bought a little bitty bookkeeping service. I was the 28th employee.
Today we have 325 employees and $40-some million of revenue. That growth takes leadership and direction. And
Arnie understood that you need to market a company in order to be successful. And he also understood that at the core of marketing was relationships. And he was the master of customer service, and he was a master at building relationships.
He was very proud of his family and his kids. I mean, he didn't show it as much as maybe somebody would and wear their family heart on the sleeve, but he did. You could tell that he was very proud of that in the way he talked about his family there.
He was very big on being a good parent. I think he saw what my mom did.
He was pretty modest, and I don't think I ever heard him, say that, he was super proud of us, but I think deep down, I think, he was, although he gave the credit to Mom, I think he was proud of the kids and the grandkids and things.
After Heidi died, I think my sister, I think family became just that much more important to him. And, he said, "I love you," more often.
He was so proud of his kids. They had all picked careers that they were enjoying and they were passionate about. And I mean, I can see why they would do that, because that was a role model they had all those years.
We were coming back from visiting my grandma, who was at a nursing home on the other side of town, and I was driving, and my mom was sitting in the front seat, and my brother and a friend were sitting in the back seat, and we were coming down the street in front of, was it Linwood Cemetery? And at the very bottom of the street, it curves to the right, and a water main had broken, and the entire street was just a sheet of ice with 2 little tire tracks through it. No warning, nothing that you would have known ahead of time. And someone had had an accident in those two, and was blocking those 2 tire tracks. So when I came down and went through the curve, boom, there was this ice. I hit the car that had the accident. I ricochet off of them to a small group of people, including a police officer, and I'm heading right for them. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna hurt somebody. Fortunately, the car stopped ahead of time. So, this is my parents' car. I've bashed in the entire side of it, and just all the way down the end, and till we came to a stop. I was petrified. I thought my dad was gonna kill me, oh, you're going too fast, or all this, or old Billy, or something. But he came from work, he stopped, he looked at the sheet of ice, he looked at the car, he looked at me, and he said, "Next time, pump the brakes." And then he got in the car and left. And that was the only thing he said to me. And to this day, I'll never forget it. It struck me as, I mean, just hysterical in retrospect.
It's kind of crazy, and you hear this cliche, but Arnie was almost bigger than life. I mean, he had a personality and a presence about him that just drew you to him. I just think, I just can't tell you how much we're going to miss him.
He gave me the first chance. You know, I just randomly sent out resumes trying to see if I could get an internship, and he was the one who gave me a chance. And he obviously must have saw something in me that he thought was worthwhile, you know, putting time and effort into. So, you know, that's what he did for me, is he gave me a chance.
He raised your game, and so that's why it was fun working with Arnie. I thought so. It always made me want to be prepared more so than maybe with somebody else in the past. So that was good. So working with him helped raise, I guess, my expectations and my performance, and because I didn't want to let him down.
He would keep moving no matter what obstacle got in the way towards his goals. And he made me much more goal-oriented and making sure that you plan for success and then react to obstacles. That was always how he did.
He kept pushing. You know, he kept pushing. He said, "Don't be satisfied. You can do more for your clients." And his motto was, you know, service to humanity was the greatest work of life. And he then spun that into, well, how do we use that to help our clients?
I think one of the most common themes that people relate back is, you know, what a great guy he was. And he really was a great guy.
I admire the way that he challenged people to be better. I admire the way that he talked to everybody like they were special. Last night my husband and I had dinner at the country club, and we ordered the Arnie special for dessert, which is now going on the menu. It's what they served at the funeral dinner. And this lady brought over our desserts, and she wasn't our waitress, but she wanted to bring them over to us because she wanted to know who ordered the Arnie special and how we knew about it. And she started getting all teary-eyed, and she said, "I just miss him so much. He was such a presence here, and he talked to everybody like they were the only person in the world that existed at that moment, and you thought it was just you, but then you found out that he just treated everybody that way." And I wish that, you know, I would take his example and take the time to treat people like that and listen to them and spend the time, because it really means a lot.
Again, when you work so closely with someone, it certainly has impact. I think just the integrity, making sure that our clients were always treated appropriately, and if we do the right thing for the client, the success will come.
It amazes me when I look around here how much I see Arnie with us every single day. And I'm so happy to have met him and have him part of my life.
He was just a great man, just a good example. He was charitable, he gave back. You know, he had a spirit about him. I mean, the fact that he was Man of the Year, wasn't he Man of the Year twice? It shows how he was looked upon in the eyes of the community. He did so many things. He touched so many lives.
It wasn't about giving to a charity. It wasn't about the 1%. It wasn't about the advertising or the recognition or the status of the business in the community, but it was a philosophy of a way of life.
It's really our responsibility to continue this legacy and to make it grow and to make him proud. Make him proud. Because he spent his life building this company, and we don't want to let him down.
The key is staying ahead of the change curve and not take success for granted. Always be willing to change, adapt, be creative, try to envision our clients' needs and continue to deliver quality services to our clients. I think those are the keys if we're going to be successful 10, 20, 30 years down the line.
if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's very true about my dad. And I think as a result, it's very true about me.
He was just one great man, a great friend, a good family person, very spiritual, and we shared a lot of things together over our years.
I think his ability to see the iniquities in what was going on in life, right, was, I think, fostered his philanthropic endeavors. I think he would really look and if something could be done, he wanted to do it.
He always said, to whom much is given, much is expected. He always said that. And so, you know, you've been blessed in life, you need to give that back. I mean, that's what he said as long as I can remember.
Arnie inspired me to keep pushing, to not settle for anything less than our best, and to set that high goal and aspire to reach it.
He gave of himself, not to better himself or to make himself proud, but to help others.
His legacy is community involvement and helping others. That's absolutely, you know, he just firmly believed on it. You know, that's an inspiration to, you know, to all the kids, because they, you know, they realize, you know, that you have to give back.
He was proud of his business success. He was proud of his family. I think he was very proud of his faith. He was absolutely a Catholic, and he believed it. He followed it.
The Archbishop at his funeral made a good point that you know, we try to look at individuals that we admire and try to carry on, you know, what they're doing. And he said that knowing what he knows about Arnold, no one individual is going to be able to do that. It's going to take many people to continue doing the things that he did.
I miss him. He was a quirky, funny little, that's what I told him all the time, you're a funny little man. He'd say, I am. I said, yes, you are.